Nicki Minaj has built her entire career on commanding the spotlight. From chart-topping hits to bold fashion statements, she's the kind of superstar who seems untouchable. But in the past few weeks, whispers have started circling online that could shake her entire empire. Reports claim that her marriage to Kenneth Petty is hanging by a thread, and if the rumors are true, the fallout could be bigger than anyone expects. It all began with speculation on TikTok and gossip blogs that Nicki had allegedly thrown Kenneth out of the house. Why? Because he couldn't stay loyal. Allegations suggest that while Nicki was on tour, Kenneth was busy entertaining someone else behind her back. Now, in celebrity culture, cheating scandals aren't exactly new, but this one carries an extra sting. Not only does Kenneth already bring a heavy load of controversy to their marriage, but this alleged betrayal has fans asking a brutal question: why is Nicki still holding on? For years, Nicki has presented herself as strong, confident, and unwilling to be played. Yet now the narrative being painted online is one of a superstar stuck with a partner who seems to do nothing but weigh her down. From legal issues to mugshots to constant media reminders of his past, Kenneth's baggage is already massive. And if the cheating claims turn out to be more than just gossip, it could be the tipping point that forces Nicki into a decision she's been avoiding for far too long. But here's where things get even more interesting. These rumors aren't coming from a single outlet or one random comment section. Multiple platforms are buzzing with the same story, and while nobody can confirm the details, the consistency is enough to get fans talking. Some believe Nicki's finally reached her breaking point. Others argue that the queen of rap wouldn't let outsiders dictate her marriage. Either way, the story has taken on a life of its own. And what's driving this firestorm isn't just Kenneth's alleged actions. It's the reminder of who Kenneth Petty really is and why his presence in Nicki's life has always been controversial. When it comes to celebrity drama, nothing spreads faster than a whisper online. In Nicki Minaj's case, that whisper turned into a roar almost overnight. It started with posts on TikTok, short clips claiming Nicki had kicked Kenneth Petty out of their home. At first, some fans brushed it off as another wild internet rumor, but then gossip sites like Media Takeout and Cheat Sheet began picking up the story, fueling speculation that something serious was going on behind the scenes. The allegations were messy. Kenneth had supposedly been unfaithful while Nicki was away. Reports claimed he wasn't just entertaining other women but allegedly spending money in ways that raised eyebrows. Suddenly, the narrative was everywhere: Kenneth cheating, Nicki reaching her limit, and clothes being thrown out of the house. Whether true or not, the story stuck, because it played into a bigger pattern people had already noticed in their relationship. Fans quickly took sides. Some defended Nicki, saying she's carried Kenneth for years, financially and emotionally, and if the rumors are accurate, she'd be better off without him. Others weren't so convinced, pointing out that celebrity gossip is often exaggerated, and Nicki herself has never been shy about clapping back when people cross the line. If she wasn't speaking up, maybe the claims weren't worth her energy, or maybe she just didn't want to add fuel to the fire. Still, the timing couldn't be worse. Nicki's brand has always been built on strength, independence, and control. For her to be tied to headlines about betrayal and instability doesn't match the image she's carefully curated for more than a decade. And because Kenneth already brings controversy with him, even unverified rumors about cheating feel believable to a lot of people. But this wasn't the end of it. The story picked up even more momentum when people started pointing to Kenneth's legal troubles, baggage that Nicki has been carrying since the moment she chose to marry him. And that's where the conversation took a darker, more complicated turn. For Nicki Minaj, being linked to Kenneth Petty hasn't just been about marriage and family. It's also meant being tied to a man with a history that never seems to fade. Long before these new rumors of infidelity surfaced, Kenneth's legal record was already a constant shadow over their relationship. He isn't just any partner, he's someone with a past conviction for manslaughter and a separate case that placed him on the offender registry. Because of this, Kenneth is legally required to update his information and take new mugshots every few months. These images don't stay private, they're publicly posted, circulated online, and even sent out to neighbors in his community. That means every time Kenneth goes in for one of these updates, the story resurfaces, dragging Nicki's name back into headlines she likely wants to avoid. Imagine being a global superstar, earning millions, selling out arenas worldwide, only to have your spouse's mugshot trending on social media every quarter. For many fans, it's a sharp contrast between Nicki's powerful image and Kenneth's constant baggage. This burden isn't just about reputation either, it's financial and emotional. Reports claim that Nicki has had to cover his legal fees more than once, and while she has more than enough money to handle it, the symbolism matters. Fans see a woman at the top of her career forced to repeatedly clean up the mess of a man who doesn't seem to add value to her public image or professional legacy. And with these fresh cheating allegations layered on top of Kenneth's record, the story becomes even more toxic. It's not just that he may have betrayed Nicki, it's that he's allegedly doing so while she's already carrying the weight of his legal troubles. To many, that paints Kenneth not just as a controversial figure but as a liability who makes Nicki look vulnerable in ways her fans aren't used to seeing. But to really understand how this situation spiraled into the storm it is today, you have to look back at Nicki's choices in relationships, and why Kenneth, of all people, became her husband. To understand why Nicki Minaj stands by Kenneth Petty despite the baggage, we have to rewind. Nicki has never been shy about her loyalty, especially when it comes to relationships. In interviews, she's often said she values realness over fame or fortune. Kenneth wasn't some industry player chasing clout, he was her childhood sweetheart from Queens. For Nicki, he represented something grounding, a connection to her roots before the fame, the money, and the chaos of superstardom. That nostalgia factor can't be underestimated. When the whole world treats you like an icon, the pull of someone who knew you before you were famous is powerful. Kenneth offered that. He wasn't dazzled by her celebrity, he already knew Annika, the girl behind Nicki Minaj. But what fans see as romance, critics see as regression. They argue Nicki, one of the most influential women in hip-hop, chose to tie herself to a man whose past doesn't match the empire she built. Her dating history only sharpens that contrast. Nicki's long-term relationship with Safari Samuels, for example, may have had its messy breakup moments, but it never carried the same legal or public image baggage. Later, her relationship with rapper Meek Mill was highly publicized, but again, it wasn't something that made her fanbase question her judgment the way Kenneth has. Compared to those partners, Kenneth seems like the outlier, someone who pulls Nicki away from her throne instead of helping her protect it. So why Kenneth? Some insiders believe Nicki was looking for stability, someone who wouldn't compete with her or try to ride her fame. Kenneth, ironically, fit that bill. But what looked like stability has slowly turned into instability, court cases, mugshots, and now rumors of betrayal. This decision matters because it shapes how the public sees Nicki. She's not just the fierce rapper spitting bars on stage, she's the woman who chose Kenneth Petty. And in the eyes of her critics, that choice undermines the image of strength and independence she worked so hard to build. But while Nicki's personal decisions fuel the gossip, her professional empire tells a very different story. Because despite everything, Nicki Minaj remains one of the most dominant forces in music today. What makes this entire situation even more fascinating is the sharp contrast between Nicki Minaj's professional dominance and her personal chaos. On stage and in the studio, Nicki is untouchable. She's the only female rapper to consistently hold her ground against heavyweights like Drake, Lil Wayne, and even new school chart climbers. She sold millions of records, packed arenas worldwide, and created a cultural blueprint that countless rappers, male and female, are still following. Her influence isn't just in music. From fashion to beauty to her highly engaged fanbase, the Barbs, Nicki has carved out a legacy that guarantees her a spot in hip-hop history. Even after a decade plus in the game, she still manages to dominate headlines with every release, every feature, and even her social media presence. She's a powerhouse in an industry where longevity is rare, especially for women. And yet, it's this very strength that makes her personal choices so baffling to fans. How can a woman who so carefully built her empire let herself be dragged into messy scandals tied to Kenneth? Critics argue that her credibility takes a hit every time his mugshot circulates or cheating allegations trend on Twitter. It's a strange duality, Nicki the boss versus Nicki the wife. But here's where things get complicated. Nicki thrives on authenticity. Her fans connect with her not just because of her talent but because she's raw, unfiltered, and unapologetically herself. That same authenticity is what makes her cling to Kenneth despite the criticism. To her, love isn't about optics, it's about loyalty. And in her mind, sticking with Kenneth might actually reinforce her image as someone who doesn't bend to public pressure. Still, the cracks are showing. Every time Kenneth's name trends, it overshadows her music, her projects, and even her wins. The timing of these rumors is particularly damaging, coming just as Nicki is gearing up for new releases and tours. Instead of talking about her bars, people are talking about Kenneth's alleged side relationships. This tug-of-war between career power and personal drama has fans asking, how much longer can Nicki balance both without one toppling the other? The loudest voices in this ongoing saga aren't coming from tabloids or gossip blogs, they're coming straight from the fans. And if there's one thing we know about Nicki Minaj's fanbase, the Barbs, it's that they're fiercely protective of their queen. But even within this loyal army, there's a noticeable divide forming. On one hand, you have diehard supporters who refuse to let Kenneth's reputation affect how they see Nicki. They argue that her personal life is off limits, that she deserves happiness, and that critics are blowing things out of proportion. To these fans, defending Nicki means standing against what they see as constant attempts to drag a powerful black woman down. Their loyalty is unwavering, no matter how messy the headlines get. But on the other side, there's growing frustration. Many Barbs feel that Kenneth has become a distraction, a liability that tarnishes everything Nicki has worked for. When cheating rumors started swirling, some fans openly questioned why Nicki would stay with someone who constantly puts her credibility at risk. Twitter threads lit up with comments like, "Nicki deserves better," and "Why is she letting him ruin her legacy?" It doesn't stop at fan debates either. The general public, who aren't as emotionally tied to Nicki, tend to be even harsher. To them, Kenneth is an anchor weighing her down, dragging her name into scandals that overshadow her music. Every new headline about him becomes another opportunity for critics to question her judgment, and that scrutiny inevitably seeps into how the mainstream perceives her artistry. Social media, of course, amplifies everything. Memes mocking Kenneth's alleged behavior spread faster than Nicki's latest single, and YouTube commentary channels churn out endless exposed videos dissecting their marriage. In today's culture, perception can shift overnight, and once a narrative takes hold online, it's nearly impossible to reverse. The backlash isn't just noise, it has real consequences. When the focus shifts away from her music and onto Kenneth's scandals, Nicki risks losing control of her narrative. And for someone who's built her career on being larger than life, that's a dangerous place to be. When you zoom out, Nicki Minaj's relationship with Kenneth Petty isn't just about love or loyalty, it's about legacy. She's one of the most influential artists of her generation, someone who redefined what it means to be a female rapper at the top of the game. Yet, her marriage to Kenneth keeps pulling her name into headlines for all the wrong reasons. And this is where the bigger picture comes in. Every artist, no matter how successful, eventually faces the challenge of balancing personal happiness with public perception. For Nicki, that balancing act is magnified 1,000 times because of her fame. One misstep isn't just gossip, it becomes global news. One rumor isn't just chatter, it becomes part of her narrative. Supporters say it's unfair to judge Nicki by Kenneth's actions. They argue she should be free to love whoever she wants without constantly being held accountable for his past or his alleged mistakes. After all, relationships are complicated, and no one sees what happens behind closed doors. But critics can't ignore the reality. Kenneth's controversies consistently steal attention from Nicki's artistry. Instead of celebrating her music, fans are left debating her marriage. Instead of dominating headlines for her bars, she's trending for his alleged behavior. And in an industry where perception is everything, that shift can have lasting consequences. The truth is, Nicki Minaj is at a crossroads. Does she continue standing by Kenneth, weathering every storm that comes their way? Or does she make a choice that protects her empire, even if it means stepping away from someone she clearly loves? Only Nicki knows the answer, and maybe she's perfectly fine with the trade-offs. What we do know is this: no matter how messy the rumors get, Nicki Minaj's legacy as a cultural force is already secure. But whether that legacy is remembered as unstoppable triumph or as brilliance dimmed by personal drama will depend on how this chapter plays out. And with the way things are going, one thing is certain: this story is far from over.